Welcome to the Lifestyle Chase. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. Proudly hosted by me, Chris Little. Without further ado, let's get started. Welcome, Myke Macapinlac. Did I say it right?
Yeah. I'm pretty impressed. That's not bad at all.
Well, thank you. I heard your voicemail a few times. That helped.
Awesome.
Welcome to the second episode of the Lifestyle Chase. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Oh,
So-
sweet, man. Well, I'm stoked to be episode number 2.
Yeah. How's your day going so far?
It's been good, man. Just I'm in the middle of just editing videos. We're about to launch a YouTube channel.
Yep.
So just busy with that.
Makes sense. What editor
Yeah.
do you like to use?
Oh, ScreenFlow, just like basic stuff.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am a personal trainer, so we do a lot of
nice.
videos too. So I always like to know what people are using.
Nice, man.
So what's a day in the life of you like? Take us on a journey of what you've gotten up to so far today.
I'm a morning person, so I wake up at around 5:45. Shower, meditate, visualize. That's a big component of my day, and then go to my favorite coffee shop. I've got a gratitude practice, and then I review my goals. Like both long term. Like this month and today, and then I do my most important task. I hit the gym at around 10:30, and then have lunch at around 12. I normally skip breakfast, so I do intermittent fasting, and then take a break. Like play the guitar, just like go for a walk, and then back at work around 2 p.m. and then end my day around 5:36, and then the rest of the day is just for hanging out, with friends or going on dates or doing some fun social stuff. So yeah, that's a pretty cool. That's a pretty typical day for me, and yeah, I get to do it. In Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto. I travel quite a bit, so that's a fairly typical schedule.
I love it. So would you say that you don't feel like you're working so much because what you're doing is your passion kind of thing?
Yeah, man, it definitely doesn't feel like work. Earlier on, I've been running my business now for about 6 years at this point. I've been learning all this stuff for about 10, and business has been really good the past few years. Money's no longer such a big driving factor for me to go to work, and yeah, man, I'm just as excited to get into my business as I was when I first started. So I feel blessed to be able to get to do what I do.
That's awesome. Is it paying all your bills financially? Like, would you say you're doing really well, or you're just kind of staying afloat?
I mean, it depends, right? Like my lifestyle is very simple, so the money that I make definitely provides a very comfortable living for me. I've been running it full time for about 6 years now, so can't complain, man.
Yeah, I like that. I like that attitude. Sometimes it's not so much about money. It's just about like building that lifestyle, that ideal lifestyle kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I make enough to provide for my ideal lifestyle, so in that sense, I'm successful.
Perfect. Yeah, I would define it as successful. So let's hit the rewind button though. What was a day in your life like in like say 2003?
2003, that would have been 15 years ago?
Yeah.
15 years ago. Yeah, I mean, 15 years ago, that would have been my first year in Canada. We just immigrated from, I immigrated from the Philippines. The rest of my family immigrated from Saudi Arabia, where I was raised. And it's definitely not a very exciting time for me because, back then I was 60 pounds overweight, didn't speak English, suffered from really bad social anxiety. So yeah, it was just a lot of self-discovery and figuring out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to move forward. So 15 years ago, I definitely felt really lost.
What was it like coming to Canada as a country in general? Like how many countries have you lived in to begin with?
Canada is the third country that I've lived in, but I've traveled to a lot of different countries on my own.
Okay. So
Yeah.
as far as living goes, how did Canada compare to the other two countries?
I mean, it was a lot colder. We moved here. I believe it was it was either summer or spring, so we had a nice transitional period. But experiencing winter for the first time was really difficult, just because I've never seen anything like it. Right? Like Saudi Arabia was about 50 degrees. Philippines is about 20, 35 type of thing, Celsius, and then my first winter was like minus 30, minus 40. So it was quite the experience for sure.
Totally, just a complete shock, hey?
Yeah.
Um, so what enticed you and your family to move to Canada? What caused it?
Just my dad. My dad's been in oil and gas for a long time. His company had an opportunity to transfer over. So yeah, he took the entire family.
Okay, nice. So, what would you say triggered you to see that you had control of your outcomes in your life? Like, you went from being a really anxious person to somebody who coaches anxious people.
Sure. To me, it was just wanting to solve my own problems. Kind of like what you mentioned. I used to be really shy and socially anxious. So for me, it was just like wanting to connect with other people. I was sick and tired of staying at home on a Friday night and feeling like there was a glass wall that separated me from the types of people that I wanted to meet. Not because I didn't want to, but because I just didn't know how, right? So if I can share that advice and stuff that I've learned throughout the years, from many different books and people and courses, if I can distill it down in a way that I can take someone who's shy and socially awkward into a social rock star in a short amount of time as 12 weeks, then I mean, if I had the program that I had now back in the day, my my life would have been completely different. I would have prevented a lot of different heartaches and headaches, and yeah, I would have been further along in my journey for sure.
Totally, it makes sense. Um, What was the biggest struggle to overcome in your growth as an individual, both physically and mentally? And what was the thing that helped you most in staying consistent and improving on yourself? So what was like the biggest roadblock that you faced?
I say it's believing that I could. It's one thing to read self-development books and go online and to like your to your favorite website or listen to your favorite podcast and hear all these people, right, who have the types of lifestyle that you want, and then like coming back to your own reality and believing that, oh shit, okay, well, there's these people out there who are, I'm assuming, no smarter or different than I am. Like I want the same lifestyle that they could that they have. To me, the biggest struggle was believing that I could also live the type of lifestyle they have. And the biggest thing that's helped me just stay consistent and on the right path would be an exercise that I learned from a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. So if you don't know what that is, it's what I must have. I mean, I've read that book multiple times. I have it on audio. I used to listen to it, like almost every other day, right? The whole book is about uh, the psychology of positive self-image. So there's an exercise that I do every morning where, I close my eyes, I meditate just to like relax my mind, and then I play a movie of what my perfect day looks like, like what kind of body I have, what kind of style I have, the types of business that I run, how much money I make, who I am, the types of relationships that I have, the kinds of friends that I have, like the all the fun activities that I get to have. So I play that movie in my head and I picture myself as if I'm already that person today, right? So that's a very consistent practice that I've done 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe even 8 years ago, and I still do it today. I haven't missed a day. That's a very critical thing that sets me up for a successful day on a regular basis.
So just like visualization, like creating what it looks like
Yeah,
in your vicinity.
consciously, deliberately creating the type of life that I wanted. So it's no surprise that I can pack up and go whenever I want. Like I have a very distinct look. Like I perform really well at the gym, and like I've dated some amazing people, and I've got massively influential friends because that's the type of lifestyle that I've pictured myself over and over again. So because I've conditioned my mind to like seek that, like the right actions and the right emotions come to me, and when the opportunity presents itself, I'm able to recognize it very quickly because I've trained my mind to look for those things.
I love it. I love it. And plus, like, being with your social network, that's going to only leverage your growth. Like, you're the product of your five closest people. And I'd
For sure.
imagine your five closest people are pretty badass, hey?
They're pretty badass, man, for sure.
That's awesome. Um, so next thing, I would definitely consider you a high performance individual, which is pretty much what this podcast is all about, which means I know that you must have a pretty big goal on your mind for the next year. Can you tell me about what you have set in your sights? What are you visualizing for yourself? And what are the steps you are taking to level up to where you want to be?
So I'm at a point now where, I've coached hundreds of guys, right, to help them go from shy to social. So I'm at a point now where I am in the process of building a team of coaches so we can impact more people. The type of work that I do, I mean, it's changed my life and it's changed the lives of the guys that I work with. 5 of my students got married last year. I've had guys who were depressed and suicidal because they're so lonely to now, they have thriving social lives, like they're going out again, they're meeting people, they're actively dating, like, I mean, if I can impact more people, like that's the type of legacy that I wanna leave, right? So I'm at a point now where I'm creating documents and processes so I can train coaches to teach the program that I've created. So yeah, starting a YouTube channel for the fourth quarter of the year, continuing on the podcast, and then doing more live events. So a big one next year will be to do an in-person summit where like we invite different speakers to talk about how to succeed in your personal, romantic, and professional lives. uh, you know, um, uh, you know, style experts, career experts, mindset experts, that kind of stuff. And yeah, man, just like keep serving more people, and changing lives. That's a big focus this year and moving forward.
I love it. It's very similar to the mindset of a personal trainer, so I can totally relate. Um, what would you say has been your best tool for networking? Has your podcast helped you out quite a bit?
Tool, you mean like the stuff that I use to
Like,
meet people, or like?
how have you made the most uh, high performance friends, the friends that have helped you level up the most?
To me, I say it's just a mindset of service, right? Instead of, I think a mistake that a lot of people commit when it comes to networking with these individuals is, they're thinking like, what can I do for me? Like, how can they promote me to their network? How can I get on their podcast? Or like, how can they, promote me to their social media followers? Like that. In my opinion, that's the wrong approach, right? Like you have to come in with a giver's mindset. What can I do for you? How can I help you, right? And all of the, especially when I was starting out, man, like I was massively just giving value to my earlier mentors. Like I had, because think about it, like if you're good at one area of your life, chances are, like you have some other areas in your life that you're kind of lacking, right? My first mentor back in the day, very good in business, but he wasn't he was in poor shape. So I took him to the gym. My other mentor, again, really good in business, but he was poorly dressed. So I took him shopping, right? The other mentor that I had, he just didn't have a lot of time, right, to create content. So I was a ghostwriter for him. I wrote his content, so that's a big thing that I did, like figuring out what are some ways that I can make their lives better, because trust me, like if you find a way to make a difference in someone's life, whether they're influential or not, like that person will remember you for the rest of their lives, and they will find ways to not just reciprocate, but also, add value to you in more ways that you can ever imagine. So I say like a service mindset and a giving mindset, that's the most important tool that I have. And everything else is easy, right? Whether it's Instagram or podcasting or Facebook, like that's all easy. That's all that's all minor stuff. The biggest thing is again, having that giver's attitude.
I agree. That's awesome. That's kind of the direction that training is going. Like the successful trainers are putting out so much free stuff, and people are like, why? Why are you putting all that time, that effort to just give people things for free? Like there's times when I've brought people into the gym and basically given them a completely free session just because I want to help them at least just one time. And I agree, like that provides so much more value, and it's reciprocated or it's remembered. It leaves a mark. So
Exactly.
I love that answer. Uh, Transitioning, a nice little segue into fitness. I know that fitness is definitely a priority in your life. I heard in one of your podcasts your deadlift number is pretty high. Did social confidence come as a byproduct of a healthier lifestyle, or did you develop a healthier lifestyle as a result of being more socially confident?
That's a great question. So kind of, backtracking a little bit to my story, I did mention that I used to be 60 pounds overweight, right? And I don't know about you, but it's hard to stand in front of a mirror and tell yourself you're attractive and you're sexy when the reflection that you're seeing, it's not congruent with that, right? So my first segue into personal development was actually in the gym. Like I started to like there wasn't much that I can do about my height or my skin color or, like my face to a certain extent. But, I was really excited to know that I can change my body and I can change how I looked. So I spent about, a solid 2 years just, being consistent, going to the gym, eating healthy, really immersing myself into health and fitness, reading every article that I could about like how to eat properly, different training styles, stuff like that. And, as a byproduct, as my waist decreased, my confidence increased, right? Because now I'm seeing, like girls were starting to check me out and like my clothes fit me better, like I'm able to wear slimmer fitting jeans and, tighter shirts and finally, uh, I started to really like the person that I'm becoming, and I can see that in the mirror. And also, the gym has taught me a lot of really important life lessons, right? Like goal setting, consistency. When you're injured, be working around an injury, right? Or like tracking. Tracking's been like a big thing that I've applied in all aspects of my life because like when you go to the gym, a 45 pound is a 45 pound. So to me, I like the idea that I can show up, like at a gym, whether it's in Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto, in the States, and there's this sense of consistency, right? It's almost very therapeutic for me to go to the gym, and I've never skipped a workout, and again, the lessons that I've learned in the gym has really I've really applied to other aspects of my life too.
Totally. That's a great answer, and I can relate with that. Before I entered into the fitness industry, I would say I was about 50 pounds heavier than my ideal weight. And since then, I've obviously added some weight because I've added some muscle. But like, it's totally the look of yourself when you look in the mirror, how you talk about yourself, your self affirmations, like they all change with your fitness, and it's a great escalator for any kind of lifestyle changes. Like you just get more confident. You're just going to say nicer things to yourself and treat yourself better. Seek out better things for every avenue of life. So
No, I
that's
totally agree.
great to hear. Um,
For sure.
when you moved to Canada, did you already know English or did you have to learn it pretty quick?
I mean, like, I knew how to read, I knew how to write, but I just never had the opportunity to speak. So, yeah, the first 2 years was tough because I didn't really understand how the locals communicated. So, I put in, again, I put in a lot of effort to improve my communication skills because I knew that if I wanted the same opportunity as the next guy, like I have to at least be able to communicate myself the same way that, that other person would be able to, to be given the same opportunities.
Did you ever have times where
you faced a struggle because you weren't getting that same opportunity? Like, was there things that sparked the fire and made you think, I need to hustle, I need to get on the same level as quick as possible?
Yeah, I say for me it was more socially. Like obviously I didn't have a lot of friends. Back then my dating life was terrible too. So just that feeling of loneliness was such a big catalyst for me to make a change in myself so I can, put myself out there and create meaningful connections.
That makes sense. So you've talked about dates a few times. Do you ever like commit to a person, or do you find you're kind of going on dates with a person short term and then moving on to another person kind of as your life evolves? Do you think you'll settle down?
No, absolutely. And to me it's about just, meeting someone who I have a lot of things in common with, someone who I'm attracted to, like-minded, same passion, same vision, that kind of stuff. So, and yeah, man, like when I meet that person, I'm just in the moment. I enjoy their company, and I really can't control who I'm with, and I can only control myself. So all I do is show up. I give my best, I give my all, and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. Um, so what was your childhood like? Like you lived in two different countries before you came to Canada. It sounds like your family was fairly well off, but like what kind of school did you go to and what did you do for fun as a kid growing up in other countries?
I definitely wouldn't say my family was well off. My dad worked abroad. I was raised in a farm, in a small farm back in the Philippines, where lived in a hut. We had to share that hut with a few other families, and we didn't have running water, and we often didn't even have electricity growing up. And I moved to Saudi Arabia when I was about 11 or 12, and then I moved back to the Philippines when I was 16 to attend post-secondary, and then came to Canada when I was 17. So, I went to like a decent school. I've always been pretty hardworking. To me, it's more just I just I just question authority, right? Like I never liked the idea of doing something that didn't make sense to me. So that's been a pretty consistent theme in my life, right? Like if I'm going to do something, I need to understand why I'm doing something instead of just being told, oh, just cause. So yeah, like I've always had issues with authority, especially if I'm not if it's not clear why I'm doing something that they told me to do.
That makes sense. I like that answer. Yeah, I just when you said that your dad was with oil field related stuff, I just assumed, but it makes sense. Like most, like I have two of my best friends were born in the Philippines, grew up there, and they've told me stories, and it wasn't like an easy go. Like typically, uh, there were things that were drastically different in their childhood in comparison to my childhood, and it's always so cool to hear the story, and then you can attribute different characteristics of different cultures to like how they grew up.
Exactly.
What would you say was the thing that helped you the most with your childhood in comparison to the childhood of somebody that was born in Canada?
I feel, this is just my own opinion, I just feel more grateful because I didn't have a lot of stuff growing up. So coming to North America, having clean tap water, like I couldn't believe people could drink tap water here because that's impossible back home. Like you could not drink tap water. It's like you turn on the faucet and it's bronze, right? Like
Yeah,
it's not safe to drink tap water. The convenience of food, right? Like you can back home, like eating chicken is like a special day for us. We just didn't have a lot of access to resources back home. So, like I mean, arguably, I feel happier compared to most people who grew up here, just because I had such I grew up with a big contrast, right? I didn't have a lot growing up. So coming here and having like more resources that are readily available to me, I never take those things for granted.
yeah, I love that answer. That's something that I see in my friends. Um, they're able to just pull the trigger and travel because they're enabled to be able to travel. They have the attitude of not making so many excuses, whereas I had to work myself out of making excuses because I got comfortable being comfortable kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not afraid to take risks because if I lose everything, it's okay because I know what it's like to not have much. So to me, like taking a risk and potentially losing whatever I have, to me that doesn't scare me just because I grew up with not a whole lot of stuff to begin with. So if I lose it, then I'm like, oh, cool, no big deal. I'll survive. I'll be okay, and I can just move forward with less attachment to stuff because I didn't have a lot of stuff to begin with when I was younger.
That's awesome. That's a great answer, and that's kind of what I thought you would say. Just because like I've had so many conversations about like why my friends are the way they are versus why I am the way I am, and like I really look up to their attitude of like living in the moment and cherishing like relationships over possessions and memories over different amounts of money and stuff. And it's a great wholesome way to live, and it takes people really far in their life. So you kind of grew up with a bit of an edge. It's not always nice to reflect on like living in a hut with bad drinking water as your edge or your advantage, but that's how it's played
Yeah,
out.
yeah. I'm just more risk adverse just because I'm not afraid to lose, right? So
You're very proficient at being grateful, I'd say.
thanks, man.
I have to ask because I know it's popular in the Philippines. Did you play basketball at all as a kid?
Oh yeah, that's a big sport that we definitely played back home, and it doesn't matter where if you're in the city or the slums, like everyone played basketball. We I actually played basketball without basketball shoes just because I couldn't afford basketball shoes. So I played with my bare feet. So my dad would come back from Saudi Arabia, and every year he'd buy me a new pair of Nikes. And I was really I'd always be excited to wear basketball shoes because that's such a popular sport back in the Philippines.
Yeah, that's awesome. What kind of a hoop did you play with? Did you have to make something up, or was there an actual basketball hoop?
Oh no, we just like made something up. Like we didn't like we played in like padded soil. We didn't even have concrete for our basketball court. And then like later on when I moved to the city, we had a proper basketball court, but back home, back in the farm, we just cut the grass and patted the soil, and we found two coconut trees, and we put the board and we created just like a metal hoop, and yeah, we played. So that was it. It was simple.
I love it because you see so many families from the Philippines and like all the kids play for the basketball team. Like
Totally.
I grew up in a
Exactly.
rural community, and every Filipino kid that we had in the school played on the basketball team, and they were awesome. And
There you
then
go.
both my friends, they play basketball. They're good at it, and it's just so nice to see like an actual appreciation for the sport or like a passion for the sport because it's like Philippine Philippine hockey kind of thing. Like, would
Yeah,
would
that's
you agree?
exactly it. Exactly. That's exactly it.
Perfect. Um, do you find yourself feeling anxious in situations in your life still, or do you feel pretty bulletproof with the experiences and knowledge and like skill set that you've gained?
I mean, I feel pretty anxious, like I feel anxious if I'm going to give a big talk, or if I'm going to meet someone really prominent, or like I'm going on a date with someone I really like. The only difference is I'm able to manage my emotions a lot more effectively. So, I mean, I'm a human being, right? To remove anxiety is to remove happiness. Like that's the joy of being a human being. You get to experience all these emotions, like if you're happy all the time, then feeling happy doesn't feel so special anymore because it becomes your new norm, right? You adapt to this feeling. So being able to go through, a variety of feelings like anxiety, depression, sadness, happiness, excitement, all these things like that, in my opinion, makes life more meaningful, right? It's kind of like um, I forgot which movie it was, but I think it was Troy or something. Like they're talking about how the gods envy the mortals because we die, right? And the reason why everything's so everything's more meaningful as human beings is because we have an expiry date. Like we go through life and we know that at some point things are gonna end, and that's what makes things more meaningful. So, answering your question, the reason why being more socially confident is such a prize skill is because, like if everyone's socially confident, then I'd be out of a job, right?
Yeah.
But because we all experience anxiety, even me, even, the best guys that I know, we all experience anxiety. The difference is how we manage our emotions that makes us the way we are.
Yeah. And I'm really glad that you answered that way, because sometimes I don't think people believe it when they see people that are like, they kind of have the have it all lifestyle. They think that those people don't get depressed feelings or anxious feelings or like fear or all the emotions. But it doesn't
Oh, we go
matter who
through it
we
all the
are,
time.
all of us.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah,
And so it's just important for people to remember that, because like these people, high performers, need support too. Just like the people who show their struggle on the outside, everybody's struggling one way or another.
totally.
So you're an author. You've written 4 books now. What inspired you to write them, and what was the most rewarding thing that happened as a result of someone reading one of your books?
So every year I've got bucket list goals, and one of my bucket list goals is to write a book. So I'm glad I can check that off, not just once but 4 times, kind of like what you mentioned. So I wrote a series of books on social confidence. They're available on Amazon. They're available on my website. And to me, the most gratifying thing being an author is, I mean, I'm very flattered because I've been stopped multiple times in different cities, either from someone who has read the book or listened to my podcast, and I can just see the the gratitude that these people have, consuming the information that I produce, and to me, I'm like, wow, at the end of the day, I'm just a guy, from Calgary, right? Trying to pursue his dreams and make the most out of his life. So for me to receive appreciation from other people that either listen to my podcast or read my books and acknowledge that, like they paid for my books, man. People work, right? People work, they earn a living, and for them to exchange their money into for something that I created, like I take that very seriously. So yeah, when people stop me on the street and they're like, hey man, like I read your book, or like I listen to your podcast, I always like take time out of my day to converse with them and get to know them, because at the end of the day, like I touched that person's life, and to me that's the best job ever, right? Being able to make an impact in someone's life.
Completely. And that's kind of the thing that would probably fill your cup, right? Like you're putting hours and hours into writing the book. How long does it take you to write one of your books?
Well, the first book took forever just because I had to go through all the process of like writing, editing, brainstorming, cover design, marketing the book, the whole launch process. But, like my first book took about, from start to finish, I'd say like 2.5 months, 3 months. But the next books were pretty quick, like 4 weeks, 3 weeks, if that.
Damn, that's quick.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that's just how I work, right? Like once I go through something once, I create a process, and then things become pretty standard after that. So, like right now I'm editing videos. It took me a while to like edit the first video, but the second video was pretty straightforward.
yeah, and that makes sense. Um, Before you wrote your first book, did you find yourself contemplating for a while, or did you just
Oh
pull the
yeah.
trigger?
It, I did sit, I sat down for a bit. I contemplated, like what I want this book to be, the title, how it's going to, play within my business, stuff like that. And I think that's the part that took me a while. The writing the book wasn't hard. It's trying to see how it fits in with the overall picture.
Yeah. Would you say your book is more of like a income channel, or one of those things where you're putting out value for people?
It's both, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'd lie to you if I say I don't appreciate the royalty checks that I receive from Amazon. Of course I do, and at the same time, I do. I feel flattered when people buy my books, and to me, I've had many students convert from the books, right? So obviously, they see enough value from what they've read that they want to take their learning to the next level, which is to work with me privately.
That's great. I love it. I think I know quite a few people who either should write books or have been thinking about writing books, and just hearing it from somebody who has is probably fairly encouraging, just knowing that it can happen and knowing that, like, sometimes you just have to take something that you're not quite sure about and just run with it.
Yeah, and give yourself permission to make mistakes, right? I think a lot of people, um, their desire for perfection is what holds them back from getting started, and that's not, to me, like, I just budget, a period of time where I'm going to be awful at something. For example, since this is a fitness podcast, recently I had to retrain my deadlift because, I've been deadlifting with a belt and straps, and I do a touch and go style. But then my best friend who's also a personal trainer said you should train without any equipment, no belt, no straps, and you should do like a stop and go instead of a touch and go. So I had to like lower the weight, right? I had to lower the weight significantly because I'm retraining my deadlift with this new technique and new form, and it was tough, right? But I've been doing this new form now for about 8 weeks, and the numbers are starting to go back up again. So yeah, if you're starting with anything new, whether it's wanting to go out and meet new people or write a book or get in shape, just give yourself a period of time where you're going to suck, and
Yeah,
that's going to be okay,
you gotta
and that's
embrace
normal.
the suck, hey?
Yeah, like you have to account for the fact that you're not going to be good at anything when you're starting out. Like right now, video editing, I'm terrible, right? But obviously, the more I do it, the more videos I produce, the more videos I edit, I'm gonna get good at it. The same as my podcast, right? I'm on episode, during the time of this recording, I'm on episode 92. Best believe my first episode was was not as good compared to my 92nd episode.
Yeah, and that's kind of the stance that I take on podcasting. My first episode, I got feedback that the microphone was too quiet. Today's episode, I'm talking to you through my cell phone in my car in a parking lot. So I mean, like, I know it's going to get better, but I'm accepting that the first few episodes might not sound as professional as everybody else's podcast, but we're making it happen. We're having the conversation.
There you go.
So I believe that no matter how successful we are or how many people we mentor or coach, uh, we all face mental struggles in terms of self-confidence, self-doubt, or just going through low points in life. And what are your tools? Because we kind of talked about it. We said that everybody goes through it, but like, what's your thing? What's your go-to? Like, if you're going to be at your lowest point, what's the first thing you're going to do?
I journal. The first thing I do is I pull out my notebook and I journal. I get everything out of my head into writing because it's so much easier to dissect and analyze your thoughts once you see them on paper. The second one is to confide with someone. Find someone you trust and respect who can create space for you and just listen, and tell them exactly what's going on. And then from then on, once you've got things on paper, you've gotten all the heaviness out of your chest. The next thing is figuring out a plan, right, to get you out of that slump. So, whether it's trying to lose weight or earn more money or succeed socially, I've gone through all those three low points, right, myself, and that's always been what I've done. I put everything on paper, I confide with someone, and then I educate myself. That's a third thing, right? Because motivation is garbage, right? Like you can pump yourself up with motivational videos all day long, but if you don't know where to channel that energy into tangible steps that can actually change your life, like most people who are struggling with something, usually for the most part, it's just lack of awareness and lack of skills, right? The reason why people are socially awkward is because they lack the skills to be socially confident. The reason why most people are working shitty jobs and they don't know how, they can't start their own business is because they don't have the awareness and the business skills, right, to be able to quit their jobs and take control of their own life. Same thing with fitness. The reason why most people are out of shape is because they don't have the awareness or the skills to be able to transform their body and change their eating habits. So knowledge is half the equation, and applied, in my opinion, applied knowledge is real power. It's what you do with the information that makes a difference.
I love it. That's a great answer. Um, so you've given us like nothing but value in this whole podcast, and people who haven't heard about you are going to be wondering about you. If anybody is listening to this podcast and wanted to learn more about you, where would they get more info, and what is the best way to reach out to you if they just want to chat?
Sure, yeah. Visit my website. It's at socialconfidencemastery.com. You can find my podcast there, my books, my blog, all my social media links. And the social media platform that I'm most active on is Instagram. So you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Myke Macapinlac. I know that's a long name, so I'm going to spell it out for you. It's Myke, and then Macapinlac is Macapinlac. Usually, if you type in Mike with a Y, Myke, and then M, I'm usually the first person to pop up. But if not, I'm sure you'll put my Instagram link on the show notes.
For sure, I definitely will, and I'll confirm for you if you type in MYKEM for Google, you're definitely at the top there.
Oh, really? That's
So
great.
that's a trophy for your trophy case.
That's awesome, man. That's wicked.
It might also help that like I'm Googling from Edmonton, so it's a regional thing, but I mean, it's a win if
Maybe,
you
yeah.
take it.
Yeah, yeah.
If you could give our listeners one piece of advice on authentically living their life to the fullest, what would it be?
I say sit down with yourself every morning in silence and ask yourself what you want. That's got to be the most important question you can ever ask yourself. Sit down in silence, ask yourself, what do I want? Like, what do I want my life to look like? What do I want my body to look like? What kind of relationships do I want? What kind of business or lifestyle, or career do I want? Because if you don't know what you want, then it's so easy to compare yourself to other people. But once you've taken the time to define your own goals, your own core values, then all of a sudden you stop caring what other people think of you. And I truly believe that everyone knows the answer to their own problems, but they just have to take the time to like sit down and listen to what like their inner voice is telling them. Because this actually makes me sad, man. Like I see so many people, whether at the gym or at the coffee shop, they're on their phone. It's like their face is glued to their phone. That's the reason why most people are so easily influenced by like the next shoe or the next style or like the next like whatever, right? Because they never take the time to sit with themselves and ask themselves what they want. And I truly believe that if everyone just took a moment out of their day and asked themselves that important question, then their lives will transform in a much more meaningful way, because like everyone has their own definition of success, but the first step is to define what happiness means to you.
I love that. That's an amazing answer. Like honestly, you put so much value into this podcast, and I can't thank you enough.
Thanks,
Um,
man. No, I appreciate you reaching out.
Next time you're in Edmonton, give me a shout. Send me a message. We'll meet up or something if you have time.
Sounds good, man, for sure.
All right. Well, thanks for being my guest for episode 2. And without further ado, I'll let you get on with your day. Talk to you later.
All right, man. See you
Bye-bye.
later. Take care.
Yeah, you too.